today's masterclass, we are diving into a tool that is often underrated. Okay, so but once you master it, it completely transforms how you work with data. Okay, so this is a very important tool used data analytics and even for data visualization and building dashboard, whether in Excel or any other tools, data analysis tool you want to use, um, Power BI and the rest of them. So we are talking about pivot tables. Okay, the fastest, most dynamic way to summarize, analyze, and visualize large data sets in Excel. So we have been talking about, we have learned how to summarize, how to analyze, and how to visualize data sets in Excel. So well, if you're working with a large data set, pivot table is very handy, okay, because it's the fastest, especially when you're working with a large data set. It is the fastest and the most dynamic way to summarize, analyze, and visualize large data sets, okay, in Excel. So if you have ever been overwhelmed with endless loads of data, okay, or of raw, when you get a raw data, and maybe it has thousands of rows, and it makes you overwhelmed, scrolling down, working with a very large data set. You don't have to keep on worrying about that, because this is your answer. Pivot table is your answer. With pivot table, it helps you to work with the particular, if you want to, okay, in that thousands of rows or that thousands of columns, which one do you want field do you want to work with? Which column do you want to work with? Understand? So even if you have hundreds and thousands of rows, pivot table helps you to work with the particular field that you want to analyze or visualize or summarize. Okay, so pivot table is your answer when you encounter this kind of challenge. So by the end of today's session, you will know how to build pivot tables from scratch. You know how to adjust them to answer real business questions. You know how to create interactive visuals with pivot table, and also let anyone that explore the you can be able to explore data using slicers, especially when you are working with teams. Okay, you have your team members you are working with, and you want them to explore your data or your visuals without tampering with them. Okay, you use slicers, so they can just while clicking on the slicers, the changes are made without even touching the visuals or the data set itself. Okay, so already discussed this. Well, these are things we're going to do. Okay, it's time for you to pivot like a pro. We have been learning a lot of things of how we can use Excel to analyze data. Okay,
excuse.
Okay.
Your screen is not showing. It's only showing the or maybe you're not using.
Yeah, but you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Okay. I wonder why wait. You're not seeing my screen as well.
They just show the 360 camera, blunt 360 camera, but 360 cool camp, but it's not showing as usual.
What could be the reason? I'm coming. Okay, let me see. I think the thing is still sharing. Let me stop sharing and share again. So can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's network that is affecting it. So anytime it malfunction, just call my attention, just like you did. Okay. Because I wouldn't notice if you didn't complain. So yeah. So like I was saying, it is time for us to pivot like a pro, master how to use pivot table to do most of the things that you have been learning, like summarizing data. You can mute your mic now, please. Like summarizing data, visualizing data, and even analyzing data. All those things we have been learning, we have learned so far. Most of the, when you get a raw data, first of all, you have to make sure that data cleaning is one of the process that you need, okay, to make the data ready before analysis. And after cleaning the data, okay, what are the fields? Sometimes when you're answering questions, depending on the question that you need to answer, because as a data analyst, I mean to say, it's all about answering business questions, okay, helping business make informed decision, or what we say data-driven decisions, because the decisions are made from the data, okay. So data analysis help businesses answer questions almost every day, okay. So as a data analysis questions, as a data analyst, I mean to say, questions will be coming to you from your manager, from your team members, from the marketing team, sales teams, and other. So we are going to learn how you can use pivot table to transform data into insightful report, visualize with pivot chart, and interact using slicers. I've mentioned that already. Okay, this is where data storytelling begins. Okay, this is where data storytelling begins. So we are going to learn all of this. Okay, pivot table is a hidden gem in Excel. Okay, this is an answer to the question. So why pivot table? Why do we use pivot table? Okay, why do we have to use it? Okay, we have learned all of these things. We have learned how you can summarize, maybe using the filter or using the sum to sum your data, the sum function, or the total sum, or all of those functions to summarize our data, to filter our data, or to even using graphs, pie chart, column chart, and all of that to visualize our data. So why do we use pivot tables? Okay, this is a hidden gem in Excel. Okay, it helps to summarize massive data instantly. Okay, when you have a very massive data. Okay, so it depends on the type of data you are working with. If it's a large data set and you are working with Excel, you will need pivot table, okay, to work with them. So you also answer business questions in clicks. Because like I told you, as a data analyst, one of your role is helping businesses make informed decisions. So this means answering business questions. Okay, if you want to, they want to know how many sales we made in the last week, or the best customers, or any, even if it is a problem, they want to find a solution. It helps business. It helps answer business questions in a click. Then it also creates dynamic filterable reports. Okay, it you know being dynamic and filterable means when you create something like charts in pivot tables, you can be able to manipulate even the data from the chart, or from the data, or from the chart, whatever manipulation that is done on the data will affect the chart. You manipulate the chart, it affects the data itself. So, and when you filter each field, it affects everything. Understand? So it makes it dynamic and filterable, as in a filterable report. You don't have to manually do some certain things. Okay. And again, no more dragging formulas. Okay. When you create a formula, you have to use the fill handle to, you know, um, copy it down and all of that. But in pivot table, you just pivot, just like they call it. So we are going to go step by step, okay, on how to create the pivot table. Okay, we are going to follow the step by step setup. Okay, so the steps involves you. First thing you need to do is to click into the data set you are working with, but you make sure that the data set has been converted to a table before you start working. It's not like you cannot create a pivot table with just a range of data sets, but it's always better to convert it to a table before you start working. And we have learned how to do this already. So you click anywhere into your data set, then you go to insert, then you select pivot table. We are going to see how to do all of this. Then you choose new worksheet, add fields, drag and drop rows and values to add field to whether you want to add field to a column or to row field or to column field or to value field or to filter field. Okay, these are called field in pivot table. So you see how you can add fields, okay, or add informations into fields, something like that. Okay, then this is also optional. You can convert range to table first for auto expansion. Like I already explained, that it's optional, but it's always better to convert your range to a table first. For auto expansion, this means that whatever you add, it will automatically expand the other field, maybe in the pivot table or in the table, vice versa. Okay, but if the data remains in range, you'll have to manually do that. So okay, so we are going to see real life example. Okay, sales by customer type. Okay, so we just 4 clicks. We are going to see answer a business question. We want to see our sales, for instance, for a company. You are a data analyst for a company, and the manager want to see sales by a customer type. So we have different type of customers. Every business has their different type of customer depending on the product you sell, right? So we are going to see how you can, with just 4 clicks, you add the customer type to row field, you add the total sale to value field. Then you see the outcome will be an instant summary report of customer types, the total sales, I mean to say, by customer types. Okay, then if you have a new data, maybe you have added a new data in the particular data set that you are using, all you have to do is to click refresh, and whatever information that is added on that data set will automatically update on the pivot table. So we are going to see this. We are going to, our class is all about hands-on. Okay, it's not just theory. We are going to practice that very soon. So you're also going to see how to drill down and explore data using pivot table. So what this does is that it makes your data to be interactive. So we're going to see the interactivity of your data set in action while using pivot table. Okay, so how we do this? This is in this case, right click will be, for you it's not just right click. There are other ways you can do that, but right click is like, faster way to do it. Okay, so you just right click, you go to summarize value by. You can select whether you want to summarize by count, you want to summarize by average, or by mean, median, mass, mean, all of that. Okay, so you can also use right click to show value. Whether you want to show value as percentage of total or a percentage of grand total, and so forth. Then and as well yearly breakdown. Okay, using right click. Okay, if you want to see the yearly breakdown, you can use right click to do that as well. So you see sales contribution trend over time by drilling down and exploring our data. Okay, by drilling down, you want to drill down, maybe the date column has both year, month, probably maybe year, quarter, month, day, and all of that. So you want to drill down from year to maybe you want to see them in quarters. Okay, not just in yearly. Maybe you don't yearly information. You want to see them in quarters, or you want to see them by their months or day, depending on the the date you are working with. Okay, so that's what drilling down means. You want to drill down from, it's a kind of hierarchy that is, automatically added on the date column by these tools we are using, right? So then we are going to see the layout. Okay, we are going to see the layout and the formatting and the style. Okay, after creating these pivot tables. Okay, so we will have our data from raw data to a refined data. Okay, you are going to use the design view to to see the compound outline and the tabular form. By the time we get to pivot table, you see all this. You also want to show the subtotals or the grand totals. You can do all this using pivot table. Or you want to apply pivot table styles. You want to format numbers as currency or percent instantly. We can do all of this with pivot table. Then you want to group, you can group the dates, just like I told you while drawing that you can group the dates. If you want to group the dates and you only want to see, you want to group it by year and quarter, or you want to group it by just like it's there already, say quarter plus year or quarter plus year plus month. However you want to group it, you can group it. You understand? Or if you want to group it only by year, or you want to group it year and month, you group your data. Then you can sort by grand total. Okay, you can sort by grand total. You can apply filters. Okay, by choosing, you can choose the year or state to apply filter on your data. Okay, then we can use analyze tab to ungroup or regroup the data or the fields that we are working with, right? So we are also going to see how we can use report filters and multi-pivot reports. Okay, so you're going to make your report flexible. Okay, we will add a report filter. Example, account manager. Okay, that's what we are going to use, for example, in this class. So we are going to create separate pivot sheet for each filter value. Okay, so for instance, since we are using account manager, we have, let's say we have up to 4 or 5 account manager, and we want to see the information for this account manager in different sheets. So we don't want to keep on filtering using filter to see each account manager in one sheet. We want to see information about each account manager in different sheets. We are going to see how you can create a separate pivot sheet for each account manager. Okay, so we will use analyze show report filter pages to do this. That's why you go to analyze tab, then you select show report filter. In the option, you see, if you go to analyze tab, you see option. If you go to option, then they drop down in that option, you see show report filter pages, and when you select it, it will create a different pages, which is in Excel, you call it sheets. So it will create a different sheet for each account manager. Now we will come to visualizing with pivot chart. Okay, chart in pivot table is called pivot chart. It's almost like the same pie chart, line, bar, column chart that we know. Okay, but this time you are creating them in using pivot table. Okay, then it's almost the same way like you create chart in Excel. You go to in the start tab, then you find insert pivot chart, or even in the analyze tab of the pivot table tools. And the analyze tab, you can find insert pivot chart there. Then you can select whether you want to select pie or line or bar chart and other charts that are available there, depending on which you want to use. Okay, then we can switch rows to columns for best view. This means we can select, maybe for instance, the customer type that we want, or the state that we have in the column. We can switch it from column to row, to have a better view, maybe a wider view or something like that, right? So instead of being a vertical, maybe it will now be displayed horizontally for us. So depending on the view that is best for you or best in answering your questions. Okay, so we are going to also use design tab like the color palette, pick styles, themes, and all that to, make our, the UI of our report, yeah, beautiful and all that. So, we also learn how to filter in charts using in chart match table filters. We're going to learn all of this. Then slicers. This is where if you are working with your colleagues or you want your colleagues to explore your data, or even one of the stakeholders, they will have to go to the data. You can add slicers. It will help them to be able to interact with your dashboard without having to even tamper with any of the charts or data set itself. So filtering with a click, we will add slicer for state, customer, and the customer type and the account manager. Then we'll use click to filter table plus chart to get what we want, and also connect slicer to multiple pivots. Okay, then you can also customize your slicer style plus layout, and then you will have the dashboard. Okay, you can create massive dashboard, but for this class, what we going to create, we just in that pivot table, we can call that a dashboard. Just know that with pivot table, we can create your dashboard if you want to go on creating dashboard and all that. So at the end of this class, we will have our data from static data. We move our data or create an interactive data from a static data. Okay, so we use pivot plus chart plus slicers. Pivot plus chart plus slicers is equal to dashboard. See, so when you use this, you can be able to create a dashboard, interactive dashboard. Okay, then your data or your dashboard can become end user friendly. Okay, so when you have a new data added on your data set, you can use the refresh to update it. Okay, so that makes it refreshable and dynamic. Okay, then your boss or your manager will love your report by the time you are through. So then the wrap up. So before the wrap up, we will quickly move to hands-on practice. But before that, I would like to know if you have any question before we move to Axel.
No.
Okay, thank you. So let's begin with a solid foundation and pivot tables. So pivot tables are like summary machines, like I've already explained. It's all about summarizing your data. They are like make things quicker for you, right? So they help you reorganize data quickly and create powerful reports without writing compressed formulas like we used to do. So here is a relatable example. So imagine I want to give you a relatable example. Like our class is always like it's a real life example, okay, as a data analyst. So imagine you are a data analyst and you have this data set and you have a sales log like the one you are seeing here, right? With thousands of rows. If I have to scroll down, you see you have a lot of rows. I don't have to keep on scrolling. Okay, let me just. So you have a sales log with thousands of rows. You need to find total sales by customer type, sales per region by quarter, and percentage contribution of each account manager. Okay, with formulas that will take time. If you have to do this using formulas like that we have learned so far, you will get the answer, but it will take time. Okay, but with pivot tables, it's just a drag and drop, literally just drag and drop, and you get the answer. You don't need to start writing functions and formulas and all of that. Okay, so you can pivot the view of your data, group it, filter and summarize it. I've already explained all this without changing the source at all. We are not going to tamper with this. Is the source, right? This is the source that we have. We are not going to tamper with it. Okay, we are not going to tamper with this, but we are going to create a pivot table using the data set. Okay, so we are going to pivot the view of our data, group it, filter it, summarize it without changing this source at all. So they are going to be responsive, clean, and perfect for fast decision making instead of going through thousands of rows and writing formulas and others. Okay, so the first thing we are going to do is to create our first pivot table, right? So we are going to do, remember I said in just 4 clicks, we can create a pivot table. Okay, so now let's get hands-on. You see that, so pay attention while we do this. So we are going to build a pivot table from scratch. Okay, no shortcuts here, just follow, want to see every step that you use to do this, right? So the first step you are going to do is to click. You have already clicked anywhere. You can click anywhere in the table or in the data you are working with. And remember, like I said, if the data is not in table, you can convert it to a table. So let's make sure our data is in table. I don't think so. So what I have to do here is to use the Control T, okay, to convert our data to a table. You remember that's the shortcut for converting our data to a table. You can also go to, insert and do that. So first, make sure, remember, you have to make sure that your table has headers. So once I do that, I'll say okay, and our data has been converted to a table. Now I can say equal to, this is optional, but it's important, especially when maybe new data is going to be added on the data set. Okay, so you might need to want it to automate once you refresh your pivot table, right? So I have clicked into any of the cell in the data set, okay, or anywhere inside your data set. Click there, then go to the insert. Okay, this is the insert here. You click on insert, then you select pivot table at the leftmost. Okay, so if you select pivot table, okay, dialog will appear. Okay, Excel will auto select your data. Okay, you can see it automatically select because it's a table, and the name of our table is table 1. If we hardly name this table, that is what we will see here. So Excel automatically select our data. Then I will choose a place that you want to pivot. Okay, if you want it to be in a new worksheet, or you want it to remain in the existing worksheet, but in this case, you will leave it to, want the pivot report to be placed on a new worksheet. Okay, so if I click OK now, a new sheet will open where we can create our pivot table, right? So this is the fourth step is to pivot using our pivot field pane. Okay, these are the field pane pivot. You can see here, it's a pivot field. So these are pivot field pane. You want to use it, okay, to answer the question. Remember, the question is all about finding the total sale by customer type. That's the first thing we want to do, right? Now, what I will do is to drag customer type. Okay, so we'll find customer type. Okay, this is customer type. We will drag the customer type to rows. This is row field. So you just click and drag it, okay, to rows. You can see it has been added on our pivot table here. Now, the next thing is to drag the total sales. Okay, remember the answer that we want to find is total sale by customer type. So I'll drag the total sale to the value. This is the value field. Okay, now we have been able to see these are different customer types. We have consumer, corporate, home office, and small business. These are different customer types that we have, and we have been able to see the sum of total, okay, or the total sales of each customer type, okay, using pivot table. In just 4 clicks, we have total sales by customer type. Okay, so before you do this, the tips I have to give you, if that keeps your mind, is to make sure that your data is in Excel table before you pivot. It is optional, But that way, any changes or new rules get picked up automatically when you refresh the pivot. So for instance, now if you go to our order sheet and we add any new data, if you come to your pivot table and you refresh, once you refresh it, it will automatically, be included. Okay. So always make sure you convert your data from range to table before working on pivot table, right? So the next thing is to customizing what we see. Okay, whether you want to use sum or count or percentage, right? For instance, what we are using here is sum of, right? So let's go deeper. Right now, our pivot is showing total sales, but maybe your manager want to see the number of orders instead. Okay, instead of seeing the sum of totals, you want to see the number of orders instead. So what we will do here is to right-click any number in the pivot. So here in this place, I can right-click this place, and when you right-click it, you go to summarize value by. You can see it here. Then you can see whether you want to summarize by sum, count, average, and whatever. But this time, our manager wants to see the number of orders instead. So in this case, we will select count. Okay. So instead of sum of totals, you will see the number of sales that we made for each customer type. Okay. So for customers of our company, consumer type that belongs to consumer type, we have 177 sales to this type of customers. Okay, and you can be able to see that the highest sales we made goes to the corporate, right, or corporate customers, I need to say. So you see, you can even you want to see whether you want to see the highest or which of our customers is making the highest purchase, or is that's having more frequent purchase and all of that. So we can be able to answer that question just with few clicks. So you can see it's now counting the number of rows, not the sum of total, right? It is not the number of rows that is counting. Okay, like the orders. If you go to the orders, it will count the number of rows for each or customer type, right? And give you the answer. Okay, instead of summing their values, it now counts the number of rows. Okay, so if you want to show it as a percentage of total instead, you right click again, just like we did before. So this time you go down, if you see show value as. Okay, remember before we used summarize value by, but this time you have to use show value as. You want to show it as a percentage of total, right? So in this show value as, you look for percentage of grand total, see it here. Okay, then we select it. Okay, you see the percentage of each customer type that we make. Right? So with pivot table, you can answer the questions. You will see that the corporate customers has the highest percent, meaning that they made the highest sale. So if we have a target, maybe our target as a company or business is to see maybe in a month or in a year, if our target is 40, or if our target is 30 or 35. Okay, let's say our target is 20, for instance. And you see that out of the 4 customer types, only 3 met that target, right? So that's how you can be able to answer some of these questions. Right now, you can easily compare contributions. Okay, you can easily compare the contributions by each of these customer types, even without knowing the raw values. Now we don't know, for instance, as we use the percentage of grand total, we don't know the raw values. So when we use count, we saw this one was like, I think 300 and something, right? But let's assume we didn't use the count, summarize by counting the number of rows. We might not know the number as in the raw values, but we'll be able to see, yeah, this one did better, even without knowing the raw values. Okay, these small tweaks let you completely change the meaning of your report without ever touching formula. As you can see, did we write any formula? We didn't write any formula. Okay, just by right clicking on the little things we did, we get our answers immediately. So that's how dynamic and powerful pivot table is for us. Okay, so I hope you understand what we have done so far. If you have any question,
yes,
you have any question?
So no question for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing we'll discuss, if you remember why we are going through this slide, I'm following this slide to make sure we get everything. So the next thing we want to discuss is grouping. Remember the grouping, sorting, and filtering that I discussed earlier. So we are going to move into the real world scenario, okay, this time. So imagine your business as is, like I told you, as a data analyst, you will be having questions coming to you. And you as a data analyst, you should also learn how to ask questions. Okay, even if a manager come and say, we want to do this, we want to be able to answer, just like we did sales by customer type. For you to know the data set you are going to use to answer this question, you might need to ask questions, maybe ask the manager, then go to the marketing team or the sales team, ask them questions, you'll be able to know, okay, with that, this is the type of data set we want. In fact, the question you ask your manager or supervisor will let you know the type of data you need to demand from, whether from the sales team or the marketing team or whichever team that you need to get retrieve the data set to answer that questions as a data analyst. Okay, so we are moving into a real world scenario. Okay, so I said, imagine your business asks, that question asks is, can you show sales trends by quarter for 2015 and 2016? Okay, the reason why I'm using this year is because the data set we are working with is dated during 2015-2016. So that's why it might be expecting me to say maybe 2024 and 2025. So because our data set dates back to 2015-2016 and so on. So the business asks is, can you show sales trends by quarter for 2015 and 2016 grouped by states? Okay, they are grouped by state. So that's 3 dimension right here. Okay, that's 3 dimension. And if you listen to the question, say, can you show sales trend by quarter? That's number 1. For 2025 and 2026, that's number 2. Group by state, that's number 3, right? 3 dimensions, that's what we have here. So the first thing you need to do is to drag order date to the column. Okay, you drag order date to the column. So let's start that. Okay, let's say, so we will drag order date. Let's look for order dates. Okay, this is order priority. Okay, order date. So you drag order date to the column, and the next thing you do is to customize. Before that, once you drag, because I like explaining every step before moving to another. Once we drag order date to the column, Excel to group it by year. Okay, you can see once we drag it, Excel auto group it by year. You can see year here. If you click down, or even, okay, let's just move on here. If you click this plus sign, you will see quarter, for each year, right? So Excel auto group it by year. Once we do this, you can see it's 2013, 2014, 2015, 16, 17, then the grand total, right? So the next thing we want to do is to customize what we are doing. So we'll right click a date. For instance, let's right click the 2013, for instance, and choose group. So I'll right click and I'll come down and say group, for instance. So I'll select years and quarter. So let me remove, automatically selected both month, quarter, and year, right? So I will remove month. So we just select quarters and year, and I'll click OK. Okay, so we can see we have them, we have grouped it by year and the quarter. That's why you are seeing this, right? Then the next thing is to drag the state to rows. Want to drag the state. Okay, remember the question. So we'll drag the state to our row column. We can decide. See, let me just drop this. Yes, then I'll explain something. You can see each customer. For instance, we have consumers from New York's and I don't know, maybe SW. This is a United States state written in their abbreviations and others, or maybe state code, for instance. So I may not mention the right name of the state, but you see we have this NSW and all that under each. You see how it is. The reason why it is like this, each state under each type of customer, is because of how we the position of it here. If I move this state on top, if I move it on top, you can see now we can be able to see. I think it will be better in each state we have this type of customers. In each state, you can be able to see. Okay, but if I move it down like it was before, you will see each customer type. You will see the state where they are. Understand? So it depending on which works better for you. For me, let me keep the state on top. Okay. I would like to say in each state, okay, in each state you will see the type of customers, okay, in that state. I think it will help answer the question better. Now we want to apply a filter to only show 2015 and 2016. Remember the question say for 2015 and 2016, sales went by quarter. For 2015 and the 2016. So we don't need 2014 and 2013 and 2017. We only need to get the year that we are looking for. So what you have to do is to click this filter drop down button in the column for the year we added. Okay, you can do that by clicking it. Then we can decide to select only 2015 and 2016, right? That's what we want to see. Then you click OK. Yeah. So we have filtered it down to 2015, 2016. Okay. Then you can drag other dates from columns to rows, and Excel will transform it from columns to rows. That's what I told you. You can these other dates that we have here, right? We can drag it from column, okay, to rows. For instance, now instead of B in the column field, let me just drag it to rows. You can see Excel transform it based on how it looks. So in each year, for instance, for 2015, you can see the quarter one percentage. You can see the percentage for 2016 and the grand total for each state, for each consumer in that state. You see how I was able to transform. So all you have to do is you can move the other date, just move it out from, if I move it back to the column, okay, it will be, in columns. But if I move it out to the rows, you see, I sort of transform it to rows, understand, in vertical format, right? So these are, the pivot table gives you hands. It becomes handy on how you want to transform the table, okay, or the pivot table, how you want it to look like, okay, in answering your question. Like you can see, we can be able to see not just the percentage for the state entirely, but for each, okay, we have 7.8% for this state. How? You see that, okay, customers that belong in the consumer type got 2%, these 2.5 and 2.18. So you see, we can be able to answer our questions easily. Okay, in under 2 minutes, we have built a tailored report that updates in real time with our data. So whatever changes that is made on the real data, the raw data, it automates. All we have to do is to refresh and boom. That's all, right? Then the next is report filters and auto-generating reports. That's the next thing we're going to do. Okay, so now you are the go-to Excel person at work. Okay, any problem or issue that we need, as a company to solve with Excel, they will come to you because now, oh, this guy is a pivot table pro. Understand? So you are now the go-to person. Okay, they go to Excel person at work. Anything Excel, they come to you as a master of Excel. So account managers keep asking, can I get this report just for my region? Okay. Remember, each account manager, maybe they have their own region. So each account manager want to see this report just for their own region. They don't want to see maybe report for other regions where they don't have, or for another account manager. Maybe I'm one of the account manager, you're one of the account manager, you just want to see your own reports, right? And also for your own region. Okay, so as an account manager, can I get this report just on my region? Then how about by manager? Okay, how about by manager? So manager A, you see their own report. Manager B, that's what I call about creating pages, or in Excel we call it sheets. So instead of making 6 versions manually, right? Maybe I'll go back to the raw data, and I'll right click again to select pivot table, or I go to insert again and select pivot table, and I will do it. Maybe if you have 20 account manager, I'll do it 20 times. No, instead of doing that, we can create these pages or sheets instantly without doing it manually. Okay, we use report filters and automation to do this. So here we can drag the account manager to the filter section. Let's start with that first. So we look for account manager. Okay, this is the account manager, right? So I will drag it to the filter. Sorry. Okay. I'll drag it to the filter, and you can see account manager has been added for us. So from here, we can decide to filter if you want to see only report for Anya Zhang, or if you want to see report for Connor Bet and all of that. So for instance, let me just see report for Anya Zhang. For instance, these are just report for Anya Zhang, right? But let me create a filter, leave it to all. Okay, go back to all, right? So before we do what I want to do, so instead of, even as I've created the account manager, instead of using the drop down to select, to view them in one page, I can create different page, right? Different pages, I meant to say. So now you can select one manager at a time, and your pivot refreshes. You have done that, for instance, for Connect. This time it will refresh. For other account managers, maybe this person, if you select, it will refresh to be able to answer their question. But even better, okay, you can go to Analyze tab. So let's wait first. Let me go back to all. Okay, so we can see for all. So instead of doing this one after the other, you can go to the Analyze tab. Okay, this is the Analyze tab, right? This is the Analyze tab in the pivot table tools. Then you go to options. You see these options at the leftmost. You click this drop down and the options. Then you see show report filter pages. Show report filter pages. If I select this, and you have to select the field, okay, you want to filter with, or you want to show the report filter pages with, right? So we want to show all report filter pages of account manager, right? Then if I click okay, just look at this place, you see what will happen now. It will create different pages or sheets for us automatically. Just watch. Can you see that? Did you notice what happened? Did you notice that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Everything changed.
Yes, it's not just that everything changed. It created a new page or new sheet for each account manager. So we can now view, if you want to see report for Anyazan, you just come to the sheet. Okay, it has automatically created each page for each account manager. So we don't have to keep on coming to maybe filtering them from here to see for other, keep on doing that. Automatically, it has created a report page for each manager, which is the question the account manager asked, okay, or the business question asked. They said, can I get this report just for my region? How about my manager, right? So we have created, Excel has instantly created a separate tab. That is what we are seeing here for each manager.
Okay, for each manager.
Yes. So it has created with their own filtered report. So from here, we can even filter further for each account manager, right? We can even filter further. Okay. It saves times, it saves hours that we would have gone creating a pivot table for each account managers one after the other. What if you have 20 managers? Will you keep on doing that one after the other? But with this show report filter pages, even if there are 100 account managers, so we'll create a different tab for all of them. Okay, so it saves us a lot of time to do this. So you don't even have to, bother, right? So right now, we have been able to see, let's assume, okay, let me look for something. Okay, so what we have here now is that we have been able to see, I was looking to see if we have a region, okay, but this time we are able to see by state, okay, for each account manager, their report by age, by state in each quarter. So for my COCAN, you can see that in this state and for quarter one, look at what the consumer types, customer types, and the report for each customers in that state, and as well in that quarter. And you can see in these two states for quarter one, it has this NSW has this type of customers. In this state, it has this type of customers. In quarter two, you can see in quarter three, and so on. So we have been able to answer that questions. So the next thing we want to see is to add, or want to do is to add a pivot chart. Okay, we want to make it visual this time. So data is good, but visuals tell stories. Okay. You can mute your mic, please, except you want to speak. Okay, so data is good, but visual tells stories. We have thought that before. Visual tells thousands of stories. Instead of going through, scrolling down to answer with visuals, you can answer. It can answer. It can tell a lot of stories just with one visual, right? So for us to create a pivot chart, the first thing, just like if you are creating a chart in a Excel table or range, you click anywhere in the data, right? So this time we click anywhere in the pivot table, and we'll go to pivot. Pivot table tools. We are in the pivot table tools, right? And they analyze. Then you look for pivot chart. Okay, this is pivot chart. So if you click pivot chart, we can decide to choose any of the chart that we want. You want to see the column, or you want to see the line, or you want to see the pie chart and all of that. So for instance, let's select any of the standard. All right, let's select column, for instance, and if I click OK, you can see the column has been added for us, right? So from here we can even filter further, right? If you want to filter to see for a particular account manager, you can do that here, right? So let me see if I can create. Give me a moment. Let me create this pivot chart here. So in the analyze tab, go to pivot chart. So select column and say okay. Okay. Now you can see how this looks because we have much data, right? Then if you go to that particular account manager, it has fewer information. But this one contains almost all the account managers and their information. So depending on what you want to answer, for instance, let's say for this particular account manager, let's just select. I just want us to see different views of what we can do with pivot chart. This time, let me just select line and let's see what we have. So you can see we are creating a line chart. You can now customize the chart further depending on what question you want to answer, right? So that's how you can create a pivot chart for your pivot table. Okay, then you can go on and customize. I'm not going to go on customizing each of this chart because of time. Okay, we have learned how to do that already. So the chart and pivot are now linked. This chart, as you're seeing here, is linked with this pivot table, right? And the chart updates as this data update. For instance, if I come here and if I select Ayazan and I say okay, see it will update the chart. So we are now seeing information only for Ayazan instead of all the account managers that we have, right? So the same way, even from this place, I can filter it as well. If I filter it, let me select all again, or let me just select another account manager. It will also update on the table. So they are linked together. Any changes we make here, update here. Any changes we make here, update here. Okay, any filter you apply, whether on the pivot chart or on the pivot table, it affects the other because they are linked together. Okay, so you can even filter directly on the chart, just like I did, instead of filtering from here. Okay, by clicking the drop down on the legend. So in this legend here, I can decide to, filter only for 2015. No, understand? Instead of put 2015 and 2016. Okay. Oh, sorry. What I want to do. Okay. You can decide to filter only for 2015, so 2015 and 2016, and you can see, understand. So whatever you do here, it updates, right? It updates.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me take it back to how it is before. So you can see we are now seeing column chart for 2015 and 2016. So they are linked together. Okay. Best part is that we have just created a data-driven visual dashboard. Okay. You can even use that maybe if you want to now start designing and all that. But like this, you can create a dashboard, okay, in Excel, right? Then the next thing we want to do is to add slicers. Okay, we want to use slicers. Okay, we want to let anyone to interact without touching the pivot. We don't want anyone to touch this pivot. You just have to, it's not just like I was doing, I'll have to come to either the pivot chart or the pivot table to filter and all that. So if I don't want anyone to touch the pivot, I'll just what I need to do is to add a slicer, right? So here is where things get beautiful. Instead of using the drop downs in any of these fields that we did, let me take it back to all. Okay, so instead of using the drop down, we will have to add, you can use what we call slicers. Okay, we give our users or colleagues or stakeholders slicers to use so that they can quickly filter or customize filter their data, I mean to say. Okay, so slicer is a big clickable button to filter data. Okay, so what I have to do is to click my pivot. I've already clicked into it already. Then I will go to insert, okay, and look for insert slicer. I'll select slicer. I think you can also find that in analyze. Let me see, is it possible? Okay, you can see it here too. You can say insert slicer. Okay, or you can go to the insert and look for slicer. So let's use this analyze option, insert slicer. Now, when you click insert slicer, you have to choose the field you want to filter with. So you can create slicer for state, for customer type, and for manager. So for instance, let's create for customer type, then select for another one is for state. Okay, state is here. Then another one is for account manager. And if you say okay, you see we have slicer, 3 slicers, right? So I can decide to bring them here, okay, and even customize them better. Okay, so we have for state, we have for customer type, and we can, okay, then you can even bring this one, oh, sorry, here, for instance. Okay, so from here now we can now filter our pivots without having to go, touching them or using the what's it called, the drop downs. Okay, so if you want to see data for this state alone, you just select the state and you see information only for that state. Okay, that's what slicer does instead of using the drop down. And if you click back to it, okay, for instance, if I want to, okay, you can clear filter by clicking this place to clear the filter. Okay, then if you want to select, okay, for instance, this state and only for consumer and the customer type and only for the manager rank. Okay, so we want to see the consumer of the customer type in this particular state for this particular manager. So you can see how we use these slicers that we added to create an interactive dashboard. So imagine this is a dashboard that we created. Like this, we have created an interactive dashboard. Okay, so you can go further with beautifying, the slicers or your dashboard. Depending on the theme that you want to use, you can select slicer styles from here, how you want it to look. You can select the drop down and even choose further. Okay, if I choose this, it will, okay, the reason why is because this is the only one I selected. So if you want to select, you can use the control or the shift, the control to select all the sliders. So if you are filtering, it will affect all of them at the same time. Okay, otherwise, whichever one you select is the one that you design, or you change the color, right? So remember what I told you, you hold the control button while selecting any of the field you want to design, and it will apply to them. So you can do any other thing you want to do, or in customizing them and all of that. Okay, so that is it. Okay, we have been able to create an interactive dashboard preview. Okay, that with this you can even build things on your own, create things, make a beautiful dashboard if you want to with pivot table, understand? Or you can even create a new sheet, then bring all of these to that sheet while creating a dashboard, and they will even remain interactive, right? So we have come to the end of this class. This is like creating a mini BI tool, okay? Business intelligence tool like Power BI. Okay, but you did it in we did all of this in Excel. Okay, we didn't use Power BI or whatever to do this. We did all of these things using Excel. Okay, so that brings us to the wrap up and next steps, right? So I want to start by saying massive congratulations for being here and following through the class. Today you learn how to build reports, dashboard, and visuals, all dynamically with no formulas, no code. We didn't write any code or formula or even functions, and no hassle. Okay, just pivot tables. Okay, we just pivot. Like you cannot be called a pivot proof, that kind of thing. So pivot tables are no longer scary. Whenever you heard about pivot table, everything we did here is what it's all about. So I've told you how you can summarize, analyze, and even visualize your data using pivot table, and or how you can even transform the appearance, whether you want to move the value from the column to rows or rows to column and all of that. I mean the field, not value. So pivot table are no longer, it's not something that you have to be scared of anymore. Okay, they are now your superpower as an Excel expert. Okay, so be sure to practice with the toolbox files. Okay, okay, I'm going to remember create the what they call practice challenge. So you have to complete your practice challenge and as well add these skills to your resume. Now you know how to use pivot table. If anyone asks you, can you use pivot table? Yes, just like other tools that we have taught so far. So you have come a long way. Now go hunt some messy spreadsheets and slice them up like a pro. So this time, when you get a lot of data, no matter how large that data is in Excel, you can use pivot table just like we did to solving that. Okay, yeah. So I was supposed to say intermediate here, completing intermediate course, not course 2, but no problem. You have mastered pivots, not just the pivot, the charts and the slicers. Okay, so you can even be able to, you don't need to download whatever if you want. I don't have that yet. This is something I created and I have left it here. So you are, this intermediate part 2 is what I told you I wanted to create, but because of time, I know I told you, if you remember, I want to add more. I think it was before the last class we did. I told you I'm going to add more topics, but because of time, I wanted to create an intermediate part 2 before any other thing. But we have just little topic to cover. Then even if I want to teach any topic later, I can always come up with it and I'll let you know if you are available. We have a class on it. Okay, so if you have any question, you can bring it on.
No question for now.